529 accounts are stupid. You shouldn't be using them and you should stay far away from these accounts. Hey, I'm Kaleb Paddock, the founder of 10 Talents Financial Planning, and today I am talking to you about 529 accounts and having a discerning ear when you listen to ridiculous so-called experts on your favorite podcast. Because this morning on my jog, I was listening to one of my favorite personal finance podcasts. The host brought on a special guest, an alleged expert in the area of personal finance, and he went on to eviscerate 529 college savings accounts for a number of different reasons regarding the taxes and penalties if you pull the money out for non-qualified expenses from the 529 account, as well as his opinion that college and higher education will look very differently in as shortly as 3 years, as long as 30 years. There's going to be a lot of change. And so what I want to do is quickly go through 3 points that he brought up and very quickly as I can, counter these points and explain some things. So the first argument he had was taxes and penalties. So it's true. You can have taxes and penalties on a 529 account if you pull the money out for non-qualified expenses. So basically your child, the most common scenario, your child doesn't go to college, you need the money for a startup. Your daughter is doing a startup company and she needs money, so you pull the money out of the 529 account. Yes, you will pay taxes and penalties on the earnings. Only on the earnings. So let's say you put 50 grand in this account, 30,000 of it is growth. So now you have $80,000. You put in 50, now you have 80. Just the 30,000 will be subject to income tax in your state, federal and state, and 10% penalty. The alternative is to use a brokerage account. Now, what he didn't mention on the podcast, conveniently, is that if you go to rebalance a brokerage account, if you go to file your taxes each year in a brokerage account, you have dividends, interest, capital gains. If you're in mutual funds, embedded capital gains. If you go to rebalance a brokerage account during a bull market and you take gains, you pay taxes as you go. You can rebalance in a 529. You can make changes to the investments without any tax implications. He conveniently left this out. This is a huge, huge part of the total cost of an account, and your money over time is this tax shelter or non-qualified taxable brokerage account. So yes, taxes and penalties can apply if there's a non-qualified expense. However, it's only on the earnings, not on your principal that went in. The second point I want to mention is these accounts are extremely flexible. You know, you can transfer the ownership, the beneficiary, I should say. The beneficiary can become another child. Let's say maybe your first kid doesn't go a traditional college route, but your second kid is interested in nursing school, becoming a physician, maybe an architect, something that requires actual technical expertise. They will typically go to a higher learning education institution, and they will use this. So my wife and I, we have 4 children. I'm sure 1 or 2 of them, even if they don't all go to college, will need money in 529 accounts. And so to just say that if one child doesn't use it, another couldn't, assuming you have more than one child, is just ridiculous. You can use it for yourself. You know, let's say you in retirement or you have a job transition, you need to go back to school. Well, you put yourself as the beneficiary and you can go back to school. You can further. He conveniently left that out. Didn't want to mention that, you know, in terms of his comments on the podcast. And then lastly, any school that is eligible for Title IV federal student aid can be a tax-free qualified expense. You know, on the podcast, this gentleman was saying you can't go to vocational school, you can't do culinary school, you can't do these non-traditional schoolings, and he's just wrong. It's not true. You know, I'm on the database of accredited post-secondary institutions and programs right now. And I've just looked up, we've got the Golf Academy of America in beautiful Hawaii, and that is a qualified institution for these. The Golf Academy of America in beautiful Hawaii. Right up the road in Boulder, Colorado, we've got the Culinary Academy, where you can go to culinary school, #1 ranked in the country, up here in Boulder, Colorado. And yes, the Culinary Academy is a qualified institution because they're eligible for Title IV federal student aid. Did the so-called expert on this podcast care to mention this detail, this actual facts of these accounts? No, he did not. He spouted an opinion that was taken by the hosts and was listened to by tens. I mean, this podcast has tens of thousands of listeners. Are they gonna know these technicalities? You know, I have a trained ear. I'm listening to this and going out of my mind on the jog this morning. Are typical listeners going to know all of this nuance? I don't think so, which is why I felt compelled to record this video and plead with you to get real advice from real experts who do this for a living, not some rando who shows up on a podcast as an alleged expert. You've got to really understand who you're talking to, who you're listening to, or you can get ridiculously bad advice. So, very passionate about correcting this issue that I heard today. I want to thank you for watching. This has been a longer video, and I hope you have a blessed rest of your day. Bye-bye now.